Welcome to the Pillar One Advisory Committee to the AIB. Tonight, we're joined by Rachel Amtes from the AIB and Libby Diamond. And we have a good lineup today. We have our focus will be in the grant implementation and processes. And considering that we just ended the legislative session, Chris Bush is here to talk about some of the bills that will affect the blueprint. So we're fortunate that she's here. She's the expert and she is also my mentor. Additionally, we'll hear from, I think Kate is here or no, I don't see Kate. Okay, yeah, okay, from Howard County Public School, and she is a community teacher, and we'll hear about the resources available to private providers. We are also fortunate to have Simeon Russell. Hi, Simeon. He is the executive director of the Head Start Association. Laura from the Children's Opportunity Alliance. Randy Albertson will be joining us soon, and we have Lisa Bucci and Tracy Clay, who is going to be joining us. My amazing Pillar One advisory team is here too. I see Gina and Sakshi. Some of the, and I don't see Linda. I think she said she could join us later on. So let's dive right in. And there's so much to discuss, and your insights are invaluable. I know everyone's busy, and I do appreciate that everyone took the time off to come to this meeting. I know, you know, we have other commitments other than our job, and I can see the passion and the, you know, the ability for you to be here. You know, it's difficult for a lot of us. So let me start with the introduction, and I can pass it on to the next person, and then you can do the same. Just pass it on to the next. So let me start. My name's Ruby Daniels. I'm the chair of the Pillar One Advisory Committee to the AIB. I'm also the president of the Maryland State Family Child Care Association, a family child care provider in Howard County, and a pre-K expansion grantee. So that's a lot. So do you want to introduce Rachel or Libby before we go to the advisory committee?
Sure. Thank you very much. I'm Rachel Amstutz, the policy director here at the AIB, and very excited to be joined by two of our policy analysts, and jointly the three of us work to cover Pillar One. I'll pass it over to Libby.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Libby. I support Pillars 1 and 3, and I just always look forward to these meetings, and I'm happy to be here tonight with you all. Thanks. Lisa?
Hello, everyone. I am Lisa Armstrong, policy analyst, and I focus on Pillar 4, and I also support Pillar 1. So I'm happy to be here with my teammates.
Well, thank you, IB team. Do you want to introduce the Pillar One Advisory Committee? I think I have Gina here and Sakshi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gina Hoover. I am part of the Pillar One Advisory Committee, and my position is the Early Learning Lead Teacher in Washington County Public Schools. So it's good to see everyone, and welcome.
Thank you. Sakshi?
Yeah, hi, my name is Sakshi. I'm the student representative for Pillar One, and I also go to Long Reach High School in Howard County.
Okay, I'm just gonna go with what I'm seeing in the screen. I see Simeon.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Simeon Russell. I'm the executive officer of the Maryland Head Start Association, and I'm glad to be here tonight.
Tracy?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tracy Clay. I'm the district manager for Hope Groves 1, 2, and 3, and a new just submitted my application for the pre-K grant expansion.
Okay, Kate?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Bachrosh. I'm a pre-K expansion grant resource teacher with Howard County Public Schools, and I've been supporting Ruby this past year with her grant implementation.
Thank you. Amazing Chris Bush.
Right back at you, Ruby Daniels. Chris Bush, Executive Director of the Maryland State Child Care Association, co-chair of the Office of Child Care Advisory Council, and thank you for inviting me this evening.
Thank you. And Laura, I appreciate you coming in last minute. I
Sure
know
thing.
you have a
Yeah.
lot of things to, yeah.
That's okay. Thank you. My name is Laura Jerome, and I serve as the Manager of Strategic Initiatives for the Montgomery County Children's Opportunity Alliance.
Oh, thank you. Randy, welcome. You're muted. Oh, you're still muted.
Did I literally just introduce myself and sorry. I had a great conversation with myself.
It happened.
I'm Randy Albertson. I own Innovations in Education LLC. And what I said was, I don't know what role I'm serving today, whether it's as MSCCA, whether it's a grant writer, whether it's just a consultant in early childhood, but pick one, I'm here.
We're gonna do it all. Thank you so much. So Dr. Miller is not here tonight, so we won't be able to have the recap, but I would just like to thank all the previous guests that we had last meeting. We had Jennifer Arnaz, Jen Riccardi, Kathy Sipes from Notre Dame, Lynette Russell, Shannon Roberts, and Andrea Cersei. It was an amazing meeting, and I don't have the recap because Dr. Miller is not here, so we can just go ahead and dive in the agenda. We have plenty to discuss. So let's start. Do we have any feedback and highlight from the committee, Gina or Sakshi?
I just think, as always, it was like you said, a great meeting, and it's always good to hear from other counties around the state. Being up here in Washington County, I get to hear a lot about what we're doing. Obviously, I'm involved in what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, but it's always great to learn from other counties and go back to my coordinator and talk to her about what I've heard and just hear what everybody else is doing, because we're all still learning all of this. So it's just great to hear from everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Gina. Sakshi, do you want to say something to the group?
Yeah, it was also a really great meeting last time. Just a couple things that stood out to me were like the PALS program, the English language. Like I know they're doing a lot to help like people in need, and also just like the pyramid, like emotional learning. I think those were just really some things that I really like to learn about, and I love to see that happening around different counties.
Oh, thank you, Sakshi. You're amazing. So as a high school and you're confident and stuff, I'm really proud of you. So we're just going to go ahead and start with the guest speakers. I know we do have a lot to talk about tonight. The first one I have is Kate, and she is my resource teacher, the community teacher in Howard County, and she has done amazing support for private programs. So she's going to talk about the resources that's available in Howard County for private programs. And this, again, this is in relation to the grant. You're on.
Thanks, Ruby. Again, my name is Kate. I'm the Pre-K Expansion Grant Resource Teacher. So I am currently helping with 4 schools in Howard County Public Schools that are receiving grant funding. So part of my support with those 4 schools is going in and completing grant monitoring through IQR forms, making sure that everyone is adhering to the expectations and that classrooms are up to par, and demonstrating best practices in the classroom. My support also extends to community partnerships, which include the Judy Center. We also have Head Start and Ruby Daniels Daycare are specifically on my caseload. Primarily, I've been helping with mentorship. So I do work with teachers from Head Start and help them really meet their goals throughout the year. So we start at the beginning of the year, identifying very specific goals that they'd like to work on throughout the course of the year. And then I check in with them monthly with different resources and supports to see that they're meeting those goals. If things aren't in alignment, then there's different resources I can bring in from Howard County to make sure that there's nice alignment between what's happening in the community and what's happening in the public schools. And that also carries over to Ruby Daniels. We've been following the same sort of format throughout the year. I started with Ruby back in September, and we set some goals. I know for Ruby, she's been really working on solidifying her assessment, the types of assessments that she'd like to use. And so we've looked at some different things, and we've talked about the classroom environments and how to assess students according to standards. And it's really just been a nice partnership so that she can see the alignment between what she's doing with her children in the daycare and how they'll transition into kindergarten as they grow. So I think it's been a really nice partnership, and I'm excited for the program to expand.
Yes, I'm really pleased the way it's going, because Howard County not only provides the resources that Kate has given me, she also helped me with the assessment and the curriculum. It's been tough because I'm trying to figure out what would be best for the children. And again, this is my first year, so I'm kind of like feeling my way around and trying to see what would work best. I like also that she has included us in the PD, professional development. So next year I would be part of the professional development alongside the teachers. So now I think it's really good that they're recognizing us as teachers as well. Well, before we were not recognized as teachers, even if we were teaching the children. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I agree, Ruby. Our Head Start teachers had a lot of good reflections. They had also attended the planning sessions in matching their curriculum with our curriculum, and we were able to share resources, and Head Start's been really pleased with that collaboration. So I'm glad that you're excited to join us next year.
Well, thank you so much. And that brings us to our Head Start person, Simeon, because she just said that there's a partnership with Head Start. Can you talk more about the partnership with Head Start and how that will look like next year? Whether you're going to continue, I know is it in PG, where you have that partnership with the center program, right?
So the Laurie Center in PG County has early Head Start childcare partnerships. Also some programs who delegate to childcare programs as well. And yeah, those programs will continue this program year. I know you were asking about how to apply. Is that what you were asking before, Ruby? How
Yeah, well,
childcare programs would apply?
If there's an expansion, how will it look like? And will it include centers and family childcare programs? And
Right, so
how
normally
does the partnership look like?
Yeah, so normally if there's an expansion of money for childcare partnerships, a Head Start program would need to apply for that expansion of money. Excuse me, I have flies flying around me. A Head Start program would need to apply, and then once they applied, once they write the grant, actually as they're writing the grant, they would identify some childcare programs that they would partner with. All right. Now, how would you, a childcare program, make themselves aware to Head Start? That would be reaching out to a Head Start program near you, finding out who the recipient is, because you may have a Head Start center near you, but that doesn't mean that Head Start center is the program that applied for the grant. So you need to find out who's running that Head Start center, right? And then contact that director, and at least put them, put yourself on their radar and let them know if this money were to, if there was expansion money or whatever, we would like to be considered. Now each program would have their own requirements for a childcare center that they would partner with. So you'd want to find out what those requirements are, and see if you meet those requirements. Now, of course, if you were part of the partnership, the Head Start program would work with you to say, here's what's required from us, which means it's also required from you, from the Office of Head Start, and kind of be there to mentor you through that process. So there's not really a process for childcare programs to say, I want to be part of the early Head Start childcare partnership. It's more if you have a relationship with a recipient that's in your county or in your region, let them know that you're interested. And then if money comes available, now they have you on a list of programs that's interested as they're choosing which programs they'd like to partner with. All right. And then,
Okay,
of course, during that process, they would, you know, educate you on how the entire program works so that you'd be aware. Now, with the association, and in the past, we've had workshops so that childcare programs would kind of at least know what it is, and then be able to connect them with Head Start programs in their area, you know, early Head Start programs in their area, you know, and we will look to do that in the future as well. We have a few other pressing things that we've got to deal with, but it's not something that's lost on us.
Okay, so it's only for the early Head Start. What about the Head Start?
The early Head Start childcare partnerships is for early Head Start. If you were speaking about regular Head Start, that would now end up being more of a delegate situation. So a delegate is where you have a Head Start recipient, and instead of them running the program, they delegate it out and partner with maybe a childcare center, right?
Okay.
The Maryland Family Network, right? They are a delegate program. So it would be, you know, a similar process. They're going to partner with programs that they have a relationship with. So, you know, it would behoove a child care center to, you know, try to develop those relationships. You know, you can go on, and I'll put it in the chat. You can go on eClick and you can see which programs are delegate agencies. You can see which programs have early Head Start and child care partnerships. I'll put a link in the chat, and then you'd be able to access that information and then reach out and contact those programs.
Okay, that is good. I mean, partnership and resources is you know, welcome, because which will take us when Chris, I guess, goes and talks about the hub, because I guess that could be similar to a hub, right? If it's set up that way. So which brings us to Chris Bush, who's going to talk about, I guess, the hub or whatever continuation.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the recommendations from the AIB that we took the bull by the horns and said, these are great recommendations and we need to move forward to mandate those into a law so we can kind of push forward. And so obviously Simeon, Kate, jump in, and my other colleagues that are on here that we invited are going to have a chance to talk more about all of this and about the pre-K grant. So I wanted to share my screen real quick, if that's okay, Ruby.
Yeah, I think
Give me one
Libby's
second.
the co-host, or Rachel?
It's up to you. I don't have to. It's just better.
Hang on 1 second.
Okay.
You should have it now.
Let me try again. So, oops, there we go. All right. Let me see if this will work. Hold on 1 second. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep, it's
Okay.
starting. Yes.
Yeah, there we go. It looks like it's coming up. Okay, there we go.
Nice.
All right.
Nice flag.
Okay, so thanks. Yeah, so I'm going to skip through you know, some of these slides because they're not exactly germane to what we're talking about, and we have limited amount of time. But I did want to bring up again the AIB December 1st report that was very instrumental in our work this year to make sure that we looked at that and we wanted to take those recommendations and move forward with those. And so in order to do that, we looked at a number of things that include the barriers that we've talked about many times in these Pillar 1 meetings and that were addressed in the report. And so the barriers included the qualifications for teachers, the funding formula isn't always enough, and the grant writing. We're going to get to all three of those tonight, so that's exciting. And the hubs because the hubs were a really important part of what Simeon was just talking about. And how do we connect all these dots, and what Kate was talking about? How do we let everyone know about the PD, about the resources, about how we can partner and braid funding and receive the resources in statewide and in geographic regions. And so let's just pull up here. So, okay. These are other ones. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about House Bill 1441. And that was started out as a continuation of last year's House Bill 1219, which was the Educator Workforce Shortage Act. And that included a lot of pre-K information, and it addressed some of the barriers related to giving some flexibility to MSDE and the grant requirements. And so, for example, FY 2025, we were in the grant application, the certification component was removed. The teacher assistant requirement was a high school diploma. So the things that had been somewhat of our barriers were looked at and were able to be manipulated and flexible. And so we took that further to be more inclusive of as many of our providers, to bring them to the table, because as the AIB is more than aware, in order for the mixed delivery to truly work and to make sure that we are using our resources wisely and that we are not putting small businesses out of business, right, by all the 4-year-olds going to public schools. And the public schools do not have the room. We've already heard from many on the AIB, there's not enough room for the 3s and 4s. We don't want to use capital expenditures to build portable classrooms. What we want to do is partner with our existing programs in numerous ways. That could be leasing space, or that could be having our pre-K within those programs, because we already service many of those families and have a lot of wraparound care and benefits to that. And so in unpacking House Bill 1441, again, we knew the AIB recommendations, and we also knew some of the barriers. And so we took the time to really address these in a very, I think, game-changing way. And so it's a lot to unpack. And as I said, it was started out as one bill, sort of an extension of 1219, but it became more of an omnibus bill. So House Bill 1455 was the hub bill that we created to strengthen the MOUs, to provide additional business supports and PD and build bridges between LEAs and the private providers. And so that bill was rolled into House Bill 1441. And we also took House Bill 600, which was a bill that looked at the Child Care Career and Professional Development Fund that helps our private providers go to college for free in our state. And we changed the amount of service hours so that they could be graduating with a degree, that they would have to serve at least 20 hours a week. So more of a part-time to full-time schedule as opposed to a 10 hours a week. It also expanded to look at part of the AIB recommendations around looking at an equity lens and our educators that their native language is not English. And so this allows to expand the CCC PDF to have utilize native language coursework and native language degree programs throughout our country, as well as looking at bilingual work, so that they have a precedent set and an ability to utilize the funding for that purpose as well. And there was an additional $3 million added to that. So just, again, those are some of the components. I want to talk a lot more about this House Bill 1441 established a career ladder just for private community-based programs. So the career ladder that you have in Pillar 2, it remains the same, right? The career ladder that you have in public school for pre-K, all of those qualifications remain the same. This is just for private providers, which is now law. And this bill it was through the Ways and Means Committee, and Delegate Vanessa Atterbury was instrumental, along with the House Speaker Jones and MSCCA, because we spent a lot of time with our partners that are on this call, who also testified, and sent out over 5,700 emails on this bill to make sure that it passed in both sides, even though it was not a cross file. We wanted to make sure Triple E passed it. So it took a lot of work, but it did successfully pass and became law and was signed into law. And so it establishes a career ladder for pre-K qualifications, and there are three different steps to that. The 3 steps include or three tiers include a level 1 is an early childhood teaching assistant, level 2 is a pre-kindergarten lead teacher, and level 3 is an early childhood consulting teacher. And those are the three categories right now that are addressed in 1441. And so the first one, as far as the assistant teacher, again, only in private settings for mixed delivery, holds a high school diploma, and by July 1st, 2027, be part of one of these pathways, earn a CDA or an AA on July 1st, 2024, or on July 1st, 2024, have documented EC experience for 15 years for at least 20 hours a week, 180 days per year. So that is it. It uses experience along with some other areas that we can measure quality. The second part was the pre-K teacher, the lead teacher in a program. And so it removes certification, similar to House Bill 1219. Certification is not required in a lead teacher in a mixed delivery program in a private setting. Some of the ways that you can be the lead teacher includes to hold a bachelor's degree in early childhood education or a related field from one of these pathways. It could be from an institution of higher ed in the United States recognized by the U.S. Department of Education, or from an institution of higher education in another country with that degree verified by an agency approved by MSDE and a minimum class, which is an assessment tool, score determined by MSDE, or hold a bachelor's degree in a subject other than early childhood education and a minimum class assessment score as determined by MSDE, or, this is the third part of the lead teacher, on July 1st, 2024, have documented early childhood education experience, whether it's in a child care center, public school, private schools, early childhood education for 10 years for at least 20 hours per week and 180 days per year, and earn an associate's in arts and early childhood education by July 1st, 2030, and a minimum class score as or determined by MSDE. And then the third level teacher is called a consultant, and that would be a pre-K lead teacher. And beginning 2027-28 of the school year, hold or be pursuing early childhood education certification, which would lend to exactly what the public school teachers are doing, and be able to lead other early childhood educators and be able to demonstrate skills and knowledge to mentor other teachers and assistant teachers and supervise and support lead teachers in the work of developing appropriate practice. Additionally, this bill calls for 20 hours of continued education in very specific area of developmentally appropriate practice. And it also includes 20 hours that would be split between the DAP, the development appropriate practice, and MSD required area of concentration. And so these things will be developed. And also, I wanted to touch on the hubs that we talked about as it was combined into this bill. And it provides additional supports for private providers in navigating the process, including similarly grant writing, which we're going to hear about tonight, in which the Children's Opportunity Alliance did some grant funding. That's why we're here to talk to Tracy and Lisa and Randy more about that as well. It includes additional ways to a template MOU from MSDE to share with the counties like Cates County to say, and also Washington County, here's a sample template of an MOU with a private provider, instead of just kind of everybody being left on their own. That doesn't mean you have to use it, but some counties really struggle. So we're trying to strengthen that MOU, and that the 24 counties, many of them ask for waivers, and we don't want that to become commonplace. We want to strengthen the language to be able to support the LEAs and the private providers to do this together in partnership and make it, make it work and make it successful. So we don't have 24 waivers being reported from each county. And so it also includes a lot of the hub language came right out of the AIB recommendations from the December 1st report. So we thank you so much, AIB, for your work on this, because it does really hold a lot of weight when we go to advocate and make these changes in law. One other thing I wanted to mention is that this bill, we know that you couldn't meet, many of the counties couldn't meet the 70-30 split as we implemented the blueprint Pillar 1. So it goes back to the 10%. minimum 90-10 split between public school and private providers, but it accelerates the percentages at a higher rate at 10%. And so we still get to the 50-50 shall be required for the LEAs, but it accelerates the funding as well. And so as Ruby has expressed numerous times, and as Tracy would and Randy and Lisa would explain, that as they take the floor next, the funding is extremely important, because in some areas of our state, the $13,000 that we're getting per slot right now isn't enough, especially if you don't meet the requirements for what the eligibility is for children. So we need to make sure that all of these things are addressed in tandem to really have a true mixed delivery system. And so that's just a brief overview. We got the pens, we got a lot of things covered. The governor signed these into law. So this is a law, and we're excited to partner together and see great things, as the AIB is a big part of who we look to, as well as many of the people in this team. So my team is here tonight as well to share with you a lot about the pre-K expansion. We have a first-time grantee application, as well as two very seasoned grant writers, along with Lisa Bucci, who has two pre-K. She has had the pre-K grant for many years, and Randy Albertson, who was an expert, and she is a consultant who has worked a lot with the pre-K grants, and they all have a lot to offer. So I'll yield my time to them.
Wow, that's a lot to digest. But it's very good. Thank you. I mean, very, very informative. There's a lot to think about. And with the CCC PDF, I know Sakshi's here, and she's a high school student. That is something that maybe we should have the high school made aware of, that could be another pathway for them, especially for someone who doesn't have the means and they're interested in going to the educational field. And also you did talk about House Bill 662 with the child care age, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell Sakshi about that?
I wanted to tell Sachi about both of those great points, Ruby, because not only does 1441 have the CCC PDF, but Senate Bill 600 passed on its own, and that is the same bill, which is about the Child Care Career and Professional Development Fund. So if, for example, our high school students, they will get precedent, they get first priority if they've never attended college for this fund. So we've expanded not only to native language, but it includes first-time, college students to get preference for this as well. So we wanted to make sure that the high schools know about this. So that's an excellent point. That's why these hubs are so important, Ruby. And also, we had House Bill 662 passed because there was a gap year that you couldn't be a lead teacher in a childcare program. This isn't pre-K. This is your before and after school. This is your regular full day. If you're not doing public pre-K and you're doing childcare, our workforce needs to be, it's been depleted. And so we have added the age of 18 as the minimum age to be a childcare center teacher. And that is with preschool age children or infant toddler children. So this helps our gap year students who want to make more money and get into the childcare field. They will be able to be paid as a lead teacher. So that's exciting as well, that was passed this year. So thanks for that as well.
Yeah, so we have to make the high school students or the other incoming workforce aware of what's available for them, which is, I guess we're going to reserve that for the next meeting. But which brings us to Laura, because we are talking about the hub, and I know Laura is one of the, they were supporting of the creation of a hub. So Laura, you want to talk more about what Montgomery County is doing and what are the future plans for?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for including us tonight. So again, I'm Laura. I'm with the Montgomery County Children's Opportunity Alliance. We are the county's designated early care and education coordinating entity. So we were created through local legislation to really build a more equitable early childhood system in our county. So this past fall, we engaged child care center providers to get their opinions about Blueprint and mixed delivery pre-K expansion, to understand their perceptions as well as their barriers to participation. And what we heard were the biggest barriers, as Chris said, the money. Certainly in Montgomery County, this is an expensive place to live. What we believe in the DMV, our true cost of quality care is closer to $24,000 for preschoolers. And so $13,000 is a really hard amount to take in. And then, of course, complicated and interconnected workforce issues, including staffing shortages, no lead teachers who met the requirements. So we're really grateful that the changes passed this year. And then the third one was general administrative capacity and bandwidth issues. So as we begin to tackle the money and workforce and environment issues that are more long-term transformative change, we wanted to find one maybe low-hanging fruit idea that we could implement quickly and get more seats next year. So, through Chris Push planting a seed of a brilliant idea to pilot these hubs, we were able to scrounge up some philanthropic dollars and convince Chris Push somehow and her team, as well as Bill Hudson at the Family Child Care Alliance of Maryland, to join forces and test out this hub model. We know that family child care providers had access to grant application and management support through the Aspire program that Bill and his team run at the Alliance, but childcare centers had no such support. And that grant through MSDE is pretty hard to navigate for your first time. So we, in February and March, we emailed or contacted every single childcare center in the county that's Excels level 3 and above. And we managed to recruit, vet, and sign up 5 amazing centers, including Tracy's, who actually met the eligibility requirements and who were willing to go on this journey with us. We also found an additional 3 centers we couldn't turn away because they were eligible, and we gave them just the grant application support through other grant writers as well. There were certainly many others who expressed interest, but were not eligible, mostly because of the teacher requirements, a few because they don't offer a 6.5-hour day, quite a few reasons. So I'm certainly going to let Lisa and Randy, our amazing grant writers, and Tracy talk about the experience because I don't know, they're probably still in PTSD. These just got turned in. I know it was hard. But we are just incredibly proud to say that all 8 centers completed and submitted their application by April 30th. So now we are just waiting. We've asked all of our grant writers to compile the biggest sticky spots in the application process across the 8 centers. And we're going to be compiling a report that we will share with this advisory committee, the AIB, MSDE, for consideration of changes of what the process was like. But there's a couple of things I really want to note from our perspective. And one is that while we are optimistic for all of our centers, realistically, we don't believe that all 8 centers will be awarded grants from the state, even though they are high quality centers that are eligible for this grant, right? And because we believe this, because the state has said with their limited $29 million pot of funding, they can only give out about 60 grants, and that they're prioritizing the 52 returning grants. So there isn't much room left for new applications to come in. So these already stretched thin childcare centers spent an inordinate amount of effort figuring out how to bend over backwards for this application, knowing they will take a financial loss, but still doing it because they care so much about the mission. And odds are not in their favor that they even get to participate. So we want to ask, when will the state have enough money and enough grants to actually support this expansion, this rollout through a mixed delivery system? I think, with what Chris was saying about the waivers, from the county side, we're trying our best. We are having childcare centers apply for more seats, and it's the state that is not awarding the grants. So we currently have 208 community-based seats in Montgomery County, but we estimate we need over 6,500 in community to be able to serve all Tier 1, 3, and 4-year-olds and all Tier 2, 4-year-olds in our county. Montgomery County is obviously the biggest county in the state. We have 11,000 kindergartners, so we need 13,000 seats across community and public schools to serve all Tier 1 and Tier 2. So we actually have a proposal that goes in front of County Council tomorrow to ask for local dollars to fund any of the 8 centers who aren't awarded state grants to run the pre-K program next year using local dollars. So fingers crossed for us. We'll see where that goes. The second point I want to make is that we engaged and screened nearly every level 5 center in the county and only landed on these 8 new centers who were eligible. We have over 1,300 licensed providers in our county, and only 8 and the existing 7 grantees are really ready, willing, and eligible to apply for these grants. So there is a much longer, harder road ahead of us to continue to fight to either adjust the eligibility requirements to be more reasonable or to support the childcare provider community and building capacity to meet these tough requirements. So I'm sorry, I've taken more time than I should have. I definitely want to turn it over to Randy and Lisa and Tracy. Thanks so much for inviting me tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. I mean, appreciate all the feedback you have. And yeah, we do have to look at maybe expansion of the grants and make sure that there's more seats that will be available for the private providers in order for us to have a true mixed delivery system. Randy is the one that helped with the grant writing. So we're just going to continue the conversation with Randy, and then followed by Lisa, who's a longtime recipient of the grant, and Tracy, who's the brand new, hopefully will get some kind of funding or accepted. Okay, Randy, you got it.
So I would actually suggest having Lisa and Tracy share their experience in the grant writing process, and then I'll fill in the gaps. How's that?
All right. Okay, Lisa, you're on.
All right. Thank you all for allowing me to be here tonight. And I want to say first, before I say anything else, Tracy, you are the best. It was my sincere pleasure to work with Tracy and one of her colleagues actually at her center over the last few weeks. It was very intense. It was lots of hard work. You know, we got through it though, and I think, I don't know about you, Tracy, but I felt very proud of what you ended up submitting to the grant. Your application is very strong, in my opinion, and it was my pleasure to assist you in writing it. I kind of want to toss it to you to give your perspective, and then maybe I can fill in.
Okay. First shall be last, last shall be first.
That's right.
First of all, thank you so much for having me here and to be a part of this amazing team. Thank you to the COA and of course, you know, Chris and all the other hands that put together this pilot. I'm very honored, and I'm also astounded to hear the numbers that we were very fortunate to be selected among the 5 and that you extended it to the 8. That's totally amazing. So that alone to me is an accomplishment in itself. But my experience, first of all, yes, Lisa, you were the best. I think Lisa knew when to pick up the phone and talk to me. You know, we were going back and forth. It got to the point we were lost in the text messages where the information was and stuff. And so let me just start by the beginning. When this first came out, out of curiosity, I did download the grant. So I did look at it that way. And in all honesty, the grant was written, although it was written in English and I'm an English speaking person, the terminology was very foreign to me. And just made me realize, well, this is not for me. Not realizing that I had key components and something to contribute to be on the platform of this new journey that we're getting ready to get on. So when the orientation came out, I paid very close attention to seeing like there was like 42 people on the call, orientation presentation that they put together, explaining things. And as they kept going through each step, you saw the calls just drop. I was like, where are these people going? I'm like, so when you sit there and say that we have all these centers, but only, you know, a small group, that in itself speaks volumes that you don't have centers that are level 3 or higher or accredited. There's work to be done in that. Or the flip side, like you sat there and said, I'm going to say adjusting. I'm not going to say lessening the requirements. I'm saying adjusting so that more of the people who are on the ground doing the work have the opportunity for this experience. If it wasn't for Lisa, who has been a grant writer and recipient of it, and then knowing that I had Randy as the oversight person to kind of make sure all the T's were crossed and I's dotted, I would have bailed out probably after just knowing that I had the level 4 or level 5 Excels and accredited. So there's that in itself. So the language was just a big barrier right there. The blessing, I guess you want to say, or the attribute to it was that this hub that you're talking about, which I'm so excited about in moving forward, was that when at the orientation, hearing the background of the grant writers, it made me feel safe. Lisa and I got to the point where she would pick up the phone and we would talk things out. Or if I was totally clueless, and she was very careful about, look, well, I just can't tell you, but I can show you a suggestion or something like that. And, a visual definitely, keyed in. The other thing that I want to sit there and say is that although I would hope to be able to announce that, yes, that we did get the pre-K expansion grant, whether if we got it or not, the experience expanded my knowledge in what more we can do for the children and families that we serve. The idea that you always hear about the resources in the public school system, but to actually know that we'll have access to it for the families and children. But I was just talking to someone earlier. I would have never thought to reach out to a partnership with the homeless. I would have never thought to make sure, again, I also teach the CDA. So having a resource in your binder as an educator is very important. It expanded my mindset as an educator who's been in this field for over 45 years to a speech pathologist. The other services that you just don't think of, the blueprint meeting, Chris, that we went to from Jennifer Arnez, the resources that I found out about the Kennedy Kruger Institute and meeting children with IEPs or the special needs. When we talk about resources, this program in itself just exposed me to a whole nother level of commitment. So I take that as a win, whether if I got the pre-K grant expansion or not. The one thing that I think me and Lisa, and she might be able to speak on it more, is that we were going along and all of a sudden toward the end, she put out this budget thing, which I still can't wrap my head around with the numbers. But I had to know that I trusted in the partnership and the people with the experience, which I think is very key in this process. Just keep it simple. I was like, okay, so if we get this money, calling you, Lisa. So the budget part, which again, I'm hoping, I think I made a recommendation or something like that, is to have webinars or either orientation sessions to whether if you're exposing new people to it, or for those who get it. And I guess that might be what the hub is all about, and stuff like that. But when it got to the budget, I had recommended to my owner, Salima Horn, to pull out. It was scary. I wasn't quite sure. And I was like, you're taking a loss for this. But Salima and I, again, went back to, I'll sit and say my purpose and passion, but also it aligned with hers. She sat there and said, but it makes a difference for the children and the families. And it's only going to make our program better in the long run. There were some other resources that at the blueprint meeting, there was someone talked about, and some NBA graduates came in and looked at the budget to reconfigure. And again, that's another opportunity. How do you reconfigure the numbers or the business plan is to say the first 5 years, at some point, it'll either get better or whatever, or more resources. I don't know, but the program in itself is worth it. At that blueprint meeting, I kind of gave the analogy that at Thanksgiving dinner. You have the little kids table and the adults table. And I just feel like the pre-K expansion grant allows me to sit at the big people, the adults table, to be heard, to be seen, and to be respected. So I'm hoping that, yes, we'll be able to announce. I think also I sent an email to County Councilman Sales. I understand there's funding available for that. I'm also going to send some messages tonight to the others to advocate for those funds that weren't spent to be put aside to support something that is in place. It's get on board, support us. You've got centers and people who want to do this. At that orientation, there was, at that point, was 42 calls. I don't know if it was individual or partners, whatever, but there were people who were interested enough to go to the orientation, which means if they got the support and the funding, you'd have more people to meet those seats. So I'm not going to take up much more time. I can't wait to hear what Lisa has to say. But yes, it was definitely memorable. And I'm hoping to continue to work with an amazing group of people. So thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Lisa?
Thanks, Tracy. You really just summed that up and characterized it so accurately about our journey together. And you can call me anytime, by the way. We're bonded now. I know there's not much time and we have some other people we want to hear from. I just feel like I want to say one sort of perspective, a takeaway that I can offer from my experience. I worked with 2 programs for this grant writing process that were part of Laura's organizations and MSCCA's pilot program. Equally committed. I mean, it was just clear how much both programs wanted to participate in the pre-K expansion grant. Really willing, really capable, so many strengths. I will say though, that building the capacity a little bit earlier than, we only had a couple of weeks to work together. So there were times when I think, the people I was working with may have felt overwhelmed and sort of like they were in the dark. And I'm asking them questions that they weren't really prepared to answer because, like Tracy said, a typical childcare center isn't working at this level yet, right? But they are capable. They can do it. They need the help and the support. And that's what I would love to continue doing through the hubs that we keep talking about. And I'm imagining that the best way to staff those hubs is with those of us that are already in the field. So it would be peers helping peers. I don't think really want outside people who don't have the very specific expertise that we've developed as a field, as an industry through many years. So that's my last thing. Thank you.
That's an important point, Dr. Bucci. Also, could you mention that you also have the grant and the flyer from Anne Arundel County? I just wanted you to touch on before Randy closes our program.
Sure. So I've been a grantee for 8 of the past 9 years, running a pre-K extension grant program in my own center right now. Recently, a flyer came out in my county. I'm in Anne Arundel. It was sent to us. Actually, it was sent to all the child care centers in the county, and it was requested that we share it with our families. So, which is a great idea, except that only public pre-K programs were discussed in this flyer. And so we felt completely sort of out of the loop and left out as, a community-based program. There was nothing about us on this flyer at all. I think that's what Chris wanted me to share.
And when you went to they said, oh, well, you're on the website, but tell them what's on the website.
So I did write back to the people that had sent this out, and I did receive a reply from someone in the early childhood office at Anne Arundel County. And they said, well, but you're not on the flyer, but you're on the website. So I went to the website, and there's a landing page that's all about public school. And over on the far left is a drop-down menu. And one of the items far down on the list says partners. And it took me a long time to find it. And then when you click on that partners, finally you get to something that acknowledges that there are community-based programs offering the pre-K expansion program as well. So we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I think it was vendors or partners, and parents are never going to accept, we have to be on the same playing field. So the AIB needs to hear this because that's part of the blueprint. Okay.
Yeah. Howard does the marketing for the private community partners too. So I was even getting calls now for the fall. So maybe Anne Arundel should kind of copy what that kind of model where they also market community providers, because that's where the families would go to when they're interested in the pre-K. They will go to the LEAs. And how will they find us if it's not there? So yeah, good point. Randy, do you wanna talk about the grant writing or any challenges, or what do you think?
Sure, in 2 minutes or less, right? So this year was a little bit different for me. I write grants for my own clients, and then wrote some grants for COA, plus another project that MSCCA is involved with, and then oversaw a number of grants. So this grant season, I either wrote or reviewed 15 pre-K expansion grants, which is an enormous amount of pre-K expansion grants. And made me a little crazy by the end. But having said that, it gave me a very different perspective from it. It clarified and validated what I've been saying for many years, is that, and Tracy alluded to this, that the way the grant is written, it is written in public school language, which is why, Tracy, when you read it, you don't understand anything that they were saying. And there's no translation available. Even the grant information guide published by MSDE to help guide you through the process does not explain the difference in terminology. And so as a grant writer, you need to be able to read the grant, know what the question is asking, translate public school language into childcare terminology, get the information from the childcare program, whether it's your own program or someone else's if you're writing the grant, and answer the question from a childcare perspective, and then translate that back into public school language to make sure that you're actually answering the questions that the grant is asking. Every single grant that I reviewed that had it wasn't even the grants that I reviewed. It was every program that I worked with that had their own draft of compilation of their own answers to the grant application questions. Almost every single one of them, their responses did not answer the questions that were being asked, even after translating the public school language into childcare language. The questions were still not being answered in the way that the grant is asking. And that's a huge, huge barrier for participation. If you cannot answer a grant question the way the grantor is asking, you will never be eligible for funding. And that in and of itself is just beyond, it's not even that our childcare programs don't have the capacity to answer the questions. They do. They're just not asking the right questions that get at what do you do in childcare to meet these requirements of having a high quality pre-K program. So that is a huge challenge. And the other thing that was glaringly obvious to me this cycle was touched on, I think, by Laura. And I think Tracy and Lisa, you also touched on that even though the grant application opens up to level 3 programs and excels, I would say 99% of the programs that wanted to apply for the grant that are at a level 3 were not even close to understanding the expectations of the grant. And so when it comes to how do we get more community-based programs prepped and ready, aside from having a longer lead time than 6 weeks turnaround that MSDE provides. I mean, the longer lead time literally needs to start today to prepare any of those programs that are currently a level 3 excels. What do you need to know? What do you need to do to be working towards a level 4 in excels? Because if you are not at a, but there's not a whole lot of difference in excels between a level 4 and a level 5, right? But there's a huge difference between a 3 and a 4. And so if you, as a community-based program, are at a level 3 and you haven't even started working on, getting to a level 4, the questions that are asked by the grant and the expectations of the grant, like Tracy said, you just haven't even thought about them, right? And it's not that you can't do them, you're not aware that there are other resources, that there are other ways to think, there are other ways to run your program. So that kind of support for our level 3 community programs would be huge in terms of being successful in applying for the pre-K expansion grants in the future. And then the very last thing, Tracy, you're spot on about the budget. Aside from the fact that the numbers don't make sense, and that it's not enough funding to fully fund a high quality community-based program, the way that MSDE puts in the budget line items and the budget categories does not align with the way childcare programs run their business. Childcare programs, almost every single one of them, aside from Head Start and some select programs, every single one of them are a business, whether they're for-profit or not-for-profit. They run a business. They do not write out budgets the way that MSDE puts out their budget expectations. And so being able to translate, aside from translating all the rest of the questions in the application, being able to translate the budget information is extremely challenging and time consuming. And again, just doesn't align with how childcare programs operate. And so that also is a barrier to writing a successful grant application. And time's up. That's it for today.
Yeah, I do agree. It's the same with family childcare, because I did my own grant. It is a lot to think about and a lot of writing. And I can just imagine for speakers of other languages, it's going to be very challenging. And how do we open and expand that to women of color, immigrant community and stuff? Right now, just want to share a resource that we have. We have the CAN-B, which is the Child Care Advancement Network, Building Educators. This is in partnership with MSCCA, Johns Hopkins, and the MSDE Maryland Rebuilds. What we do is we provide a no-cost foreign evaluation of, if you have a foreign degree, we can translate that or evaluate it into its US equivalency. So a lot of these immigrant providers who have a foreign degree can also participate in the pre-K expansion now and into the future. So just want to give, that add. If you know of somebody who has a foreign degree, please contact us. That is for centers and family as well. So
Can you repeat the program again, please? What is it called?
We call it CAN-B because we can be an educator. It's CCANBE, Child Care Advancement Network, Building Educators. And you can check us out at our website, www.msfcca.org, CAN-B program. So check it out. Thank you. Yes, and I guess, and that is also for centers. If you have some people in the center that has a foreign degree, we will help you. And there's a free 2-year membership, I believe, for MSCCA, right? Yeah, a free. So And I guess that's all we have for today. Thank you so much. And our next Pillar One Advisory Committee meeting is on June the 6th. If you know of any stakeholders that want to come to the meeting, everyone's welcome. You know, the more voices we have on the table, the better it is. And we would like to get Rachel, I guess, to close out the meeting.
I just wanted to take a minute to thank everybody for being here and for bringing forward this perspective, the information that you've shared. I've learned a lot. There were some numbers I wasn't aware of, and really appreciate hearing firsthand perspective of people who are, you know, opening a grant application for the first time or working to figure that out. So just know that we have taken good notes and that we are very appreciative of your time and your efforts to partner with us in expanding pre-K access across the state. So thank you for being here, and we're eager to hear some of the follow-ups that some of you mentioned are in the works, and look forward to a next wonderful meeting. So thanks, Ruby, for you and team for always bringing such a great group together to help us know how Blueprint implementation is rolling out in Pillar One around the state. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening, everyone. To all the mothers, please, happy Mother's Day to all.
Excellent. Thank you.